The Expansion Zone with Sonia Barrett.
Everybody's talking about consciousness. Everybody wants that eternal kiss. Yeah, everyone's saying there's more than this. Everyone wants to follow their own bliss. Talking about one love, one blood, one light in everyone. One life, give each other. We are sisters and brothers. We sing
On the Expansion Zone, we examine life and our quest to understand who and what we are and of the vastness of human potentials. We explore the making of our world from quantum physics to parapsychology, health, sociology, and philosophy, along with practical living. You are reminded of the possibilities in creating personal change. So for an hour, we'll stimulate and expand the mind.
shanty, 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 shanty. Sing the world, let's do it together. Shanty, shanty, shanty. It's time to wake up. Shanty, shanty, to a brighter day. Realize
Well, welcome once again to another edition of the Expansion Zone with Sonia Barrett. I am your host, Sonia Barrett, and I certainly hope that you are finding a way to maintain your sense of self, which is so incredibly important at this time. And so, as we dive along in the show, all of that will become even, I think, more relevant, why that is so necessary. So I'm doing something different today because although we are in the fund drive, I will not be offering any premiums today, but instead, my guest is actually going to give away a couple of things. And so I'm also going to explain a bit more. So I just say, well, how about that? So please keep your ears tuned in to the radio at 90.7 FM, or if you're streaming live at kpfk.org, be sure to keep it there. Anyway, thank you for your continued support. That is without question. This is what's helped KPFK to continue to be here after over 60 years. Station's been around since 1959. So it has to be because there are listeners that absolutely love the station and have their favorite shows. So today's quote is really important. They all are, but I love this one. The minority, the ruling class at present, has the schools and press, usually the church as well, under its thumb. This enables it to organize and sway the emotions of the masses and make its tool of them. That was by Albert Einstein. How about that? Well, it's extremely relevant today. So today's topic is the leading cause of death and disease is negative emotions and its effect on the immune system, because that's what we're dealing with today in today's times. It's the immune system. Can you imagine if we really understood this and got it together? We wouldn't be so stressed and in such fear the more we understand. And this is why shows like this becomes it's so important to you. And who better to have this conversation with but my guest, Chris Shelton, a Tai Chi and Qigong master. So let me just review a bit here about what we're doing. It's a fun drive. It's going on, but here's what's happening. We realize that everyone is tired of the fund drive. I mean, I get it. I think we all get it. So what I'd like to do today is this. Nope, there will be no premium pitching. However, I am going to ask you to take into account the importance of this show to you, the Expansion Zone, and to donate whatever you can during this show. So basically, you're just going to call in and give at 818-985-5735 or subscribe to the Sustainer Circle for KPFK. Now, ideally, I'm going to tell you what I personally would really like, and I so hope you hear me and you go along with this. So ideally, what I would like is this. I would like for at least 50 people to call in with a donation of at least $50. And of course, you can donate less or you can donate way more, just any of that. So please, I want this to work so that we can simply host shows and everyone is happy. That's what I want to do. That's what all the hosts want to do. We want to host the shows and we want to bring you all these amazing people. But with your help, if you do that, if you call in anytime during the show and just donate, that will show that we could do this. We could do it this way. We can do it. 818-985-5735. And of course, yes, I will repeat this other times in the show. All right. So real quickly, because I don't want to take up any more time per se, but regarding that quote, the minority, the ruling class at present has the schools and press, usually the church as well, under its thumb. This enables it to organize and sway the emotions of the masses and make its tool of them. Appropriate. How long has Einstein been dead? Okay. So this was always going on. So today's talk certainly, as I said, will make a case for the importance of really finding your own grounding, your own footing, understanding the effects of emotions, particularly at this time. It's always that way, but particular at this time, and why it's important for us to find ways to transform those behaviors and patterns and thinking and all that trapped stuff that's there, all of that stuff. So my guest today, his bio, of course, it's Chris Shelton. Chris Shelton has dedicated his life to boosting health, happiness, and healing transformation. Chris' belief in the healing powers of Qigong is rooted in firsthand experience. As a teenager, he suffered from a devastating back injury that left him in constant pain and nearly crippled. In a 10-year period, he went from not being able to walk to a martial arts champion to a renowned healer. Chris attributes his full recovery to Qigong, a holistic approach perfect for people who want non-invasive, affordable, and empowering healthcare. Chris has worked with Special Olympics teams, professional athletes, and celebrities looking for deeper meaning in their lives. He has been doing private medical Qigong sessions for over 20 years now and has helped thousands of people reclaim their health. His website is sheltonqigong.com. And remember, we've got some giveaways. So you do want to stay tuned. All right. Well, Chris Shelton, welcome to the Expansion Zone. So excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. And I love that quote that you're completely correct. This is what is going on right now, and this is what we're seeing. And this is why more than ever, these ancient practices like Qigong are so important, is to give people the tools to be able to deal with stress. And most importantly, give people their power back. It's about self-empowerment and giving people their power back.
Oh, absolutely. And and this is precisely where it becomes real interesting, because when people don't have their power back, they have no idea how it impacts their immune system. So let's start out with what is Qigong, from your wonderful way of explaining that. What is Qigong?
Well, Qigong is a 5,000-year-old practice, and people don't realize this, but Qigong is actually the foundation of Tai Chi. It's also the foundation of acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine. So, thousands of years ago, when doctors were discovering the human organism and how it functioned in coordination with nature and the environment and the seasons and the food that we, people the original people were so in tune, so connected to source, to the Tao, to God, whatever you want to call it, minus the ego, that they were enlightened enough to be able to understand that there are these energy pathways inside the body, which help to influence the body, and our overall health. And so when we look at Qigong, Qi is the life force energy that emanates through all living things, and Gong is the skill in which we harness this life force energy, in this case, to improve our health and our overall well-being. So if you hear like the word Gong Fu, what that means is skill of the fist. So this is, the Qigong is such a simple practice with profound results, because what we're doing here is that we're looking at these ancient practices where we understand how different emotions attack different organs of the body and shows up as manifestation as disease. And by doing these simple practices, then what happens is that it really allows a person to have the tools necessary, not only to deal with day-to-day stress and trauma, but also old stress and trauma that a lot of us tend to push down and resist letting go of.
Mm-hmm. Now, I guess I just want to dive right in, because listening to you, speak in other times, because I looked at a couple of other videos, and when we really need to talk about the emotions in the organs, and the various kinds of emotions where they lodge in these areas. And you talk about everything from a migraine headache. What does that really mean? How the liver is impacted, how the kidney is impacted. Can we talk a bit more about how these emotions, the frequency, how they get trapped in these areas of the body, and the end results that we have, which is some sort of disease or some sort of illness?
Yeah, well, when we talk about stress here in Western medicine and science, when we talk about stress, they just call it stress. They don't break down the different emotions. And the difference with Chinese medicine is that we recognize stress, but then we categorize it like, well, what kind of stress is it? Are you suffering from shame and guilt, sorrow and loss and disappointment? Are you, struggling with resentment and anger and old anger? Well, in Chinese medicine, what happens is that we understand that, okay, well, anger, old anger, hatred, resentment, all attacks the liver and the gallbladder. The grief, the sadness, the guilt, the shame attacks the lungs. The fear and shock weakens the kidneys. The worry and anxiety, over intellectualizing, will weaken your stomach, spleen, and pancreas. And then your heart is the emperor, empress of the body, meaning it dictates how much of an emotion is going to be expressed or suppressed. Now, the emotions that directly affect the heart are going to be like abandonment, lack of joy, loneliness, overexcitation, mania. But, if you think about it, the heart takes the brunt of everything. If you get angry, what happens? Your heart races, and then it weakens your liver and your gallbladder. If you get fearful of something, what happens? Your heart races, right? And then it weakens your kidneys. If you become worried or anxious about something, what happens? Your heart races, and then it weakens your spleen and your pancreas. If you're grieving somebody or a loss or something, what happens? Your heart hurts, and then it weakens your lungs. So when we start to see disease show up inside the body, we understand how the body functions according to science, but because we have thousands of years of study on the human organism, we recognize, like, okay, well, let's just look at anger, because that seems to be the most prominent emotion that we're seeing. And hate, these are the kinds of things that we're seeing out there is the most prominent, right? Well, okay, well, anger is actually a good emotion if it causes you to fight for the underdog, to get out of a bad situation, to create positive change in the world. But when you're suppressing it or you're holding on to it, guess what? It binds the blood of the liver. And if that happens, then what happens is it starts to affect your sympathetic nervous system. And we see a big array of diseases. One of my favorite case studies is I had a gal that was coming in. She was a personal trainer, 40 years old, and she came in with back problems. And one of the ways that I diagnose or assess the person is I could read their face. So every line, every feature on their face tells a story of how they think, their personality, and also, more importantly, what kind of emotions are stuck in the body, and then what kind of potential diseases are in the body. So as I was taking her soap notes, I said, okay, well, we'll fix your back, but we have to deal with that resentment that you have towards men. And she said, oh, I dealt with that years ago. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I continued to type in my notes, and So we fixed her back, and she would periodically come in for, if she got the cold or the flu or something, and then one day, something she said, something I saw on her tongue and something I saw on her face, I said, I need you to make an appointment with your primary care physician. I want your carotid arteries tested. She goes, you're crazy. She said, look at me. She goes, I work out 1 to 2 hours every day. I eat wholesome, clean food, my diet's clean, and I said, well, I'm seeing this, and, it's up to you what you do with it. Right. And so anyways, 2 weeks later, she's sitting in my lobby and she's in tears. She said to me, she said, Chris, I want to thank you for saving my life. Both my carotid arteries are 70% blocked.
Wow.
So if she's eating right and exercising, doing all the things that they say, which is true, those things do help maintain health, right? And she still has carotid artery disease. What is the one thing that she was missing? Well, the one thing she was missing was she was not acknowledging that she had a lot of resentment still towards her ex-husband, right? She held on to that. So luckily for both of us, her physician and I worked together. He didn't put her on any medication. We changed her diet according to Chinese nutrition, because the energetic properties of food, we look at food differently. And then we gave these simple Qigong practices as well. She came in for treatments as well. And in 1 year, she went back in and her arteries were clear. Okay, so when we look at emotions are good. There are a barometer as to what's going on in our environment. It's when they get stuck or suppressed or not expressed appropriately that it shows up as disease. And some of the worst diseases that I see, like Lyme and lupus, so inflammatory diseases, the common thread that I see with most Lyme cases is that those people don't know what anger is, don't know what it is. It doesn't necessarily mean that they had something bad happen in their life, they had a bad childhood or anything like that. No, for some reason, they disconnected from the emotion, and then guess what? The body says, okay, you can pretend like that wasn't there, but guess what? We're going to start shutting down parts of your body until you finally get it. So when we look at disease manifestation, yes, poor diet, not exercising, not drinking enough room temperature water is going to show up as disease as well. But over and over and over again, we see people that are healthy and they're suffering from these different conditions. And your DNA wants to be healthy. It does not want to be sick. And so the key here is that if you have something showing up, you have to really take an inventory as to what's really going on in your life, and then go from there.
My goodness. I mean, in those few minutes, I mean, you really said some such key things that could open up the door for anybody listening to really start really considering, well, what's going on with me right now? Because many times we'll say, yeah, I trouble with migraines, but that's as far as we go with it. We just know we trouble with migraines. Yeah, I have diabetes. Yeah, my mother did and my family did. And then we stop right there. So I think people tend to do that because there's a sense that either there's no solution or we'll just go ahead and do some medication. Now, there's so many things going on in my mind that I want to ask you about. But okay, so we know that food is significant. Okay, it's significant. But I'm going to use the word almost, but I've really felt that that part, the emotional piece, probably plays a much bigger role because everything you said, you could be eating what you call right, but then if these things are not addressed, they're boiling, they're there and they're cooking. So we see people who are vegans. Well, but they were on a vegan diet. They did, they were, eating so healthy, but then they had a heart attack, or they were vegetarian, they had a heart attack. They were raw food. So there's other things going on. So can we address the food part a little bit?
Yeah, so the difference when we look at food according to Chinese nutrition is that we understand what the nutritional value is of the food. But the difference is that we also look at the energetic properties of the food. And what does that mean? That means, okay, well, number one, is it cooling in nature? Is it drying in nature? Is it lubricating in nature? Is it invigorating in nature? Okay, so then we take it even a step further. We say, okay, well, what is the flavor of the food? Is it sweet or bland? Is it sour? Because we recognize, okay, If it's sweet or bland, then that's going to benefit your spleen and your pancreas. If it's sour, then that means it's going to benefit your liver and your gallbladder. If it's salty, it's going to benefit your kidneys and your urinary bladder. If it's pungent, it's going to benefit the lungs and the large intestine and the colon and your skin. If it's bitter in nature, we recognize that's going to benefit the heart. But when I say sweet, for example, when I say sweet, if you're craving sweets, that means that your body's knocking on your back door saying, listen to me, your spleen and your pancreas is out of balance, and it doesn't want the bonbon and the glass of port wine. What it really wants is it wants things that are naturally sweet, like yams, sweet potatoes, congee, oatmeal, lean meat. These are some of the things that it really wants. So when we have somebody who's craving something salty, okay, we automatically know there's something going on with the kidneys. And if I was to do more Q&A with the patient, I'm sure some of the other symptoms that they're having would also show up as connected back to those kidneys. So when we look at food, we look at the energetic properties. What else do we look at? Well, okay, we look at foods that are in season. That's a big one. Because, most of us, our constitutions are strong enough. We could have a watermelon in the winter months, but watermelon's not supposed to be eaten in the winter months. That's a summer fruit. And why? Why? Because the other thing that we look at too is that different organs are more prone to disease during certain times of the year, right? So what happens in the summer months? Summer is hot. The heart is most prone to disease during the summer months. And if you go to the CDC's website, you'll see that most heart attacks happen in the summer months. So God, the all-knowing, the Tao, whatever you want to call it, wise enough to say, okay, well, guess what? We're going to produce certain fruits and vegetables that are cooling, energetically cooling in nature to help to cool down the heart fire. So that way we cool down the heart and it's not so affected by the summer heat. So what else do we see? We see asparagus, we see cherries, these are, cucumber, right? These are things energetically cooling in nature, right? And we eat them in season to help to offset. In the Indian summer months, where we're talking about like October, getting into fall, right? So our spleen is most prone to disease. And so what do we see? Well, those pumpkins are really groovy to carve, but those pumpkins are actually meant for you to eat. Why? Because they benefit your spleen to help you get ready for the next season where the lungs are most prone to disease, right? And then it carries on. So when we eat foods that are out of season, it also could start to show up as disease as well too. So this is the cool thing. What I love about this medicine is that it looks at every single component. It does not shy away from everything means something. Everything means something. Then we're going to take it another step further, right? So let's say if I have a raw onion, that raw onion is pungent in nature and I know it's going to help my lungs. But if I bake that onion, now guess what? That onion is now pungent and sweet. So guess what? It's now benefiting my lungs and my spleen. So when I cook, I'm cooking according to what my body needs. So one of the things that Qigong does is it teaches you how to listen to your body. So when I'm making dinner or something like that, I'm going to put the vegetables, the herbs in there based upon their properties because I know what my body is deficient in and what I need. And if I need to build up my immune health, for example, like right now we're in winter, need to keep that immune health nice and strong, then I'm going to be, number one, eating foods that are warming in nature. But number two, I'm going to do things that are going to help to strengthen my kidneys and to strengthen my lungs. And this will help to inadvertently keep my chi flowing strong and help to keep my immune system strong.
Wow. Love it. Love it. I'm just, but okay. So, all right. So this brings me to, because I always have like several questions that I think I'm going to ask you. Then you say something else, and then I need to make sure that I ask you that. All right. So, we're always hearing, well, flu season. Of course, that's usually the time of year where everybody is like in offices, well, used to be sitting around eating like a lot of cake and a lot of sugar and a lot of, Halloween candy time. It's just that whole period there. And then they are not aware of the certain foods that would be best eaten at that time. So would you say then you're saying that they're more vulnerable in those winter months if we don't understand what the balance needs to be, so it impacts the immune system. That's what it sounds like you're saying.
Correct, correct. And, like I said, certain organs are more prone to disease during certain times of the year. So, for example, my Qigong book for self-refinement, Total Health with the Five Elements, I introduce the reader to these ancient practices that are so simple to do, but also basic functions of these organs. And one of the things, for example, that the lungs do is they house what is known as our Wei Qi. Now, what is the Wei Qi? Well, the Wei Qi is like this energetic bubble that's around all of us. The stronger that Wei Qi is, guess what? The stronger our ability to ward off the intrusions of pathogens. And people say, well, Chris, I think you're full of it because I don't have a bubble that I'm walking around in. I say to them, well, you know what? You have experienced this Wei Qi at some time or another. If you've ever been standing in line at a bank somewhere and somebody walks up behind you and you don't see them or hear them, but you feel them, that's somebody tapping into that Wei Qi. If you're sitting at a stoplight somewhere and you feel somebody staring at you, and from 4 car lanes over, you look over, somebody staring at you, that's somebody tapping into your Wei Qi. So what happens is that during the autumn months, these lungs start to get weaker. And what happens is this energetic bubble starts to reside closer to the body, which then allows for the intrusion of pathogens to come in easier. We get into the winter months, talking now flu and cold season, right? When we get in the winter months, well, guess what? Our kidneys now are most prone to disease, and kidneys do not like cold. Kidneys do not like cold. The kidneys and the lungs have to work together. We just take our internal organs for granted. We think, well, I breathe just because I breathe. No, when you breathe, the kidneys have to pull the air in from the lungs, pull it down to the kidneys. And then what happens, because the lungs do not like dryness, then the lungs then pull the moisture up from the kidneys to help to lubricate the lungs and the spaces between the skin and the muscles, which further helps with the regulation of the opening and closing of the pores, which also helps with, guess what, that Wei Qi again. So yes, when we're looking at cold and flu seasons, for example, it's really fascinating the foods that are there prior, right? Like I said, going back into the Indian summer months, eating pumpkins and gourds and those type of earthly vegetables like that. Well, again, because if our spleen and our stomach is strong, and this is then our immune system is strong, right? Because the whole organism works together. Most of us just think of our heart or maybe our stomach. We don't think of our gallbladder unless we have a pain in it or something, right? We don't think of our small intestine and what the function of the small intestine is, right? But these foods, when we eat them according to the seasons, it will honestly help you maintain a stronger balance in your life, but also be able to prepare for the seasons. It's like a bear or animals in the wilderness. What do? They gather, right? They collect, right, to store, right, and then they go into hibernation. Well, they do that on purpose because they're so in tune with nature that they know that they are aware that to do this. Us humans, we don't. We have the luxury, most people do anyways, or a lot of people do, where well, we could just eat what we want, or we just eat what we want, and we don't think about the ramifications. We don't think about the ramifications of fast food. We don't think about the ramifications of having cold and raw food excessively, and what kind of damage it does to us, right? So yeah, and then taking it a step further, there's a classical textbook called the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Difficulties. And in that textbook, the Yellow Emperor talks about diseases and deaths that arise when season or not in season. So when we have global warming and those kinds of things happening, clear cutting the rainforest and those kinds of things, what it does to our seasons, right? So when our seasons are out of season, what kind of diseases actually show up? So it's deep stuff, but once you understand it more deeply, you're like, oh, okay, it's just common sense. It's like some of the stuff is like really just common sense, right? I'm not just pulling a rabbit out of my hat, though that would be cool, though.
Yeah, I would like to see that as well. Oh my gosh, but you're right. A lot of this is common sense, but we've just gotten far away from common sense. As they say, common sense is just not so common. but but what we're going to do is we're going to prepare to go to break. But I do want to say to everybody, you've heard just amazing stuff right now. I mean, there's so many changes that can be made just by everything that Chris has shared just now that's significant to you in your life right now. And these are the kind of shows that we want to keep bringing you. So, after, again, like I said, we'd love to have the donations. If 50 people would call at any given point in time, that would be great at 818-985-5735. And after the break, we are going to find out what Chris is giving away. And then you'll be able to have access to that. You're going to be giving it away. And this is really, really great. And it's going to be based on everything that he's talked about so far. So for those of you who really, really say, man, I love this show and I've got my favorite shows, let me call KPFK at 818-985-5735 and just make a pledge. Not a pledge, but a donation. See, I'm so used to saying pledge, but you're not making a pledge. You're just donating and supporting the station at 818-985-5735. Whatever you can do or subscribe to the Sustain Circle, it would be so appreciated because I really would like to keep doing it this way. So, all right, well, stay tuned and we're going to be right back after this brief break. And we are back. Of course, we're coming to you from KPFK 90.7 FM in Southern California and streaming live at kpfk.org. You are definitely listening to The Expansion Zone with Sonia Barrett. And of course, that's me, your host, and my guest today, who is Chris Shelton. And we are so excited to hear all of what he's giving to us, all of this great information. And I can't wait to hear more of what he has to share. Now, Chris, before we dive into other things, can you tell us the name of the book? I believe it's is it the Qigong for Self-Refinement book that you're going to be giving away?
Correct. Qigong for Self-Refinement, Total Health with the 5 Elements. Correct.
Okay. And then also the refinement chart, which you'll be able to download. So can you tell us a little bit about the book?
Yeah, so what's amazing about this book is how this book came about is that I was presenting at a FIT conference in Florida. This was several years ago. And in my public live classes, I used to give out handouts because like I said, for me, when I teach a class, I don't just want you to do the practice just because it feels good. I want you to understand medicinally what it is that I'm teaching you and why you're doing it, not just because, it feels good. And things that feel good are great, that's fine. But what are we doing that's different than just mindfulness meditation? So what happened is this book started off because I used to give handouts in each of my classes. In my class, the Qigong, there's a Qigong level 1 and 2, which was about a year long. We compiled those into the book. And like I said, this book talks about, it starts to introduce the reader to the practice of Qigong in an easy to read format. And like I said, this is not a belief structure. This is not, this is one of the things I love about Qigong is that it doesn't discriminate against race, gender.
It's not religious. It's not, yeah.
No. So in this book, you're going to learn these different exercises, for example, like the lung clearing exercise. How do you do that? And then, okay, well, what are some of the signs and symptoms that my lungs are weak and need this exercise? What are the emotions, right? When are the lungs most active? Meaning what time of the day are the lungs most active, right? So we're breaking this down. And what's cool is that this book corresponds with the 30 days of Qigong that we have on my YouTube channel for free. So the 30 days of Qigong is like you're taking 30 weeks with me at our studio. And each video, I talk about the practice, once again, why you're doing it and how to do the practice. And then each practice builds on top of the next. So this is a simple to read book and easy to understand. And it's something that if you want a video to go along with it, you go to the YouTube channel. Like if you want to know how to do the white pearl meditation, you go to my YouTube channel. You'll see that in day number 1, I talk about the white pearl meditation, what its benefits are. In this case, its benefits are to, number 1, get you out of your head back into your body, but also number 2, to benefit your kidneys. Okay, so these very simple practices, and what I've done is I've taken a complex subject, because Chinese medicine is a different language. I've taken a complex subject and I made it attainable for all people. And I think one of the biggest compliments that I've got is that I've, besides here in the US, the next country that follows me the most is Vietnam. And so we translated my book into Vietnamese. And I had given it to this one Vietnamese gentleman, this older gentleman, and he had said to me, he said, Chris, I studied this type of philosophy, but had a hard time understanding it. You took it, and you're not even Chinese, and and you were able to make it. Now it makes sense what I was reading as a kid. So this is the book. It's such a simple read, and
So
in there
awesome.
is a 5-element questionnaire quiz.
So this is so awesome. All right. So the book is going to be available to 5 people. We're giving it away to 5 people. And guess what? It'll be mailed right away. I'll be mailing it out so you won't have to wait for it. So 5 people call 818-985-5735. 818-985-5735. Be sure to give your name, the exact address, email address, and phone number. Make sure that you provide all of that information and that it is accurate. So 5 people, 818-985-5735. And everybody will be able to also receive that chart, the download chart. So can we talk about the chart? And I believe the chart, what is the chart? The refinement chart. Where it goes over all the different elements and your body and all of that. So can we hear about that?
Yeah. So anyways, if you've ever taken an Enneagram before, which tells your personality type, well, this is going to kind of do the same thing in a way. It's going to tell you personality type. But did you know that each of us is governed by a certain organ, meaning that organ governs us, and this organ, or as a result of this organ governing us, it describes a certain nature that we should have. So for example, a wood type, which means their liver and gallbladder governs them. A wood type is a natural leader, like they should be a natural business owner, civil servants, president of a company, that kind of thing, because this is the expressive nature of the wood element, right? When we deviate from our element typology, and this is the importance of this handout or this download, is that when we deviate from our typology, this starts to indicate disease. So for example, a fire type, which means that the heart governs them, when they're not living in their aspects of sharing love, being in communion with other people, just being the life of the party, being creative, if they suppress their fire, well, then guess what? Then they tend to be more prone to heart disease, mitral valve syndrome, those kinds of things. I'm not saying that other typologies can't get heart disease, because obviously they can, but a fire type is going to be more prone to that, right? So the important thing about this 5-element questionnaire is that it's going to tell you what your primary typology is and what is your weakest. Okay, well, if my weakest is my earth element, which means my stomach and spleen, then what kind of things can I do in order to enhance my stomach and spleen to make it stronger? So we give gentle information that's safe to follow and simple to follow, in order for you to help to, number one, bring you back into your primary typology, but also help to lift up what is your weakest typology.
Okay, and I love it. I mean, the download is absolutely, it's beautiful to look at, and again, bringing simplicity to this design, this technology. I am just constantly fascinated by it, because it's perfectly designed and especially when we understand how to tune into it, how to listen, how, all the things that it needs. It's going to simplify our lives, and ideas, things about longevity, all such things become so much simpler to move into, because the body is functioning in more of a balance, more of a resonance, I guess. Homeostasis is, I guess, what we would say. Now, 2 things. One, right now we're living in a time where the lungs, what is it? The lungs, and there's another organ, but the breathing, the lung part of everything is the big thing, right now.
So what can we do to enhance that? Yeah, so right now the lungs and the kidneys. So right now we're in winter, so the kidneys are more prone to disease. So we should be eating more soups. And if you're somebody that and like I said, the lungs do not like dryness. So this is also why we want soups, right? We don't want to be having our heater on all the time and then baking and broiling or barbecuing all the time. Because also going back to food, we also look at cooking methods. Right. So right now we want things that are braised, that are boiled, steamed, sauteed, that kind of stuff. But soups, but eating things like leeks, turnips. Turnips are, people don't realize this, but turnips are antibacterial and antifungal. We could have things also like those little packages of seaweed that you get at your market, and having a packet of those a day, because that benefits the kidneys. Having more seafood, smaller fish, that is, not large fish like shark or something, but smaller fish. And so the food wise, this is some of the things that we could do. Oh, the other thing too is that make sure, I know that there's a fad, the cold raw diet fad, and some people's constitutions thrive off of it. But scientifically, your body operates at, most people's bodies operate at about 98.5 degrees. Mine operates a little bit lower, I'm about 97. But anyways, if you take something from the refrigerator, so you make, or the ice box, and you make yourself a smoothie first thing in the morning, especially in the winter months, that cold goes into the body, and then guess what? Your body has to heat it up to 98.5 degrees to assimilate it. Guess what that creates? Inflammation, right? Also weakens the immune system, right? So we want to make sure, especially between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 a.m., this is when our stomach and spleens are most active. This is why your biggest meal of the day should be in the morning. Also, too, I would suggest, to help our immune health, I would start off with a small 4-ounce glass of hot water and a whole lime, fresh lime. You can do lemon too, but because I want to be able to kickstart my liver, my gallbladder to start secreting bile into the stomach. The other thing too that I like to put in my hot water and my lemon in the morning is I'll do half a teaspoon or a teaspoon of coconut oil. The reason for that is because I'm being preventative. I'm trying to reduce the opportunity for cholesterol to build inside my body. But cholesterol isn't only something that we see in our arterial walls. Did you know that gallstones and kidney stones are also a form of cholesterol? So if you're somebody that suffers from those, that simple little remedy, that's just a very easy remedy to do. So before you have your coffee, whatever else you have that 4-ounce glass of hot water with a whole lime or whole lemon, and then a teaspoon or half a teaspoon of coconut oil. Man, it's so simple to do.
Yeah, a lot of simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, in terms of your practice, if somebody says, because we need to let people know if they're thinking about, man, I'd love to be able to connect with him. Where can they do this? And I mean, what could that entail if somebody wants to come and see you? Are you in LA or Burbank? Where can they see you?
So I say that we're bi-coastal, or I'm sorry, bipolar. I don't know. No,
Like a bipolar.
no.
Which end of the pole are you on?
Right? No way. I say that we're dual citizens because we live in the San Francisco Bay Area, in Silicon Valley, as well as in Los Angeles, in Burbank. So yes, if someone wants to come in for a clinical session, I do both. I do one-on-ones in person. But also, we've been getting more and more people through Zoom because of this pandemic from people around the world. So you just go to sheltonqigong.com, and it's spelled QIGONG.com. So sheltonqigong.com. That's the best way. Go to and click on the button for contact us, and then somebody will get a hold of you to help set up that appointment, and also see what it is that you need. If people want to start to empower themselves right now, like right away after listening to the show, we have something that's called the Qi Club, and you go to the qiclub.com. And that's, once again, Qi is spelled QI. And every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to 8:30 a.m., we have a live class, a live Zoom class, and we get people from all around the world. And what's happening is that we're doing Qigong in those classes. And as I'm teaching you, the public, the movements or the meditation, once again, I'm also describing what is going on, why we're doing it. And it's also a good opportunity for people to have questions, because people will ask questions during the show. And my wife, Parisa, who's my partner in crime here, helping us deliver the mission or the message around the world, she'll ask the question at the appropriate time, So if you have a question, there's a health-related question, it's a great way to get that answer as well. And then one more thing, if you're somebody that wants to dive deep, become a deep diver with this stuff, we do have a Qigong teacher training program. Level 1 is 13 weeks, and the next launch date for that will be March 1st.
Wow. That is exciting. I mean, but just think about it. It's like after all of this, because someday it will be over. It has to change. It has to shift. Like all things, change must come. But this is like a great time for people to start preparing for, a different life for themselves. So if nothing else, this situation, this pandemic has brought us the opportunity to make changes, not based on fear, but to make changes in our lives based on evolving our own personal life. So to learn the tools of Qigong, to be in a training class like that, and to have maybe even a new career goal. I mean, so many incredible opportunities. Not only are you helping other people, but you're helping yourself. And you've said enough, I think, about fear without talking about it, but that is something that is so prevalent now. People's behavior, and I'm not going to get into it, but I just want to emphasize that it does affect our immune system, obviously based on this conversation today. When you're rude to someone because they're not doing what you think that they should be doing, you're affecting your own self. Just do what you do for you,
Right.
and help your immune system, and not shoot it down more.
Correct. Yeah, and so the kidneys are affected by fear, fright, and shock. So we hear the saying, because the kidneys control our bladder, right? So you hear if somebody is in fear mode, something happens. What happens? They urinate themselves. Why? Because when somebody's in fear, it causes the chi to descend. And when somebody's frozen in fear, then what happens is that they no longer think clearly, right? Now they're creating inflammation inside their body as well too, because they're stuck in this place, like they're stuck. And our nature as a species is to evolve, and not to let somebody else dictate how we evolve, right? That's so important. Or a situation, like you said, yes, you could have your own belief structures or whatever, but really educate yourself. I'm not going to go too deep in this, but one thing that people have to understand about what's going on right now is that viruses have been with us since the beginning of time. And it's part of our evolution as a human species to go through this kind of stuff. And yes, some people will pass on, and some people will get sick. Majority of people will not die, though. But what happens is this builds up into our DNA for our next generations, right? So what can we do? Number one, I say, monitor how much time you spend watching the news, right? Monitor how much time you're on social media, because you don't know what's really is real and not real anymore. It's really unnatural for what is happening right now to be conducting the way that we're asked to conduct ourselves right now is so unnatural. And we're seeing, as a result of all this fear, we're seeing higher rates of depression, alcoholism, spousal abuse, child abuse, suicides, right? And this is killing more people right now. And nobody's talking about those numbers, right? We're focusing on the other numbers. Let's talk about the poverty. Let's talk about what's happening, as a result of what's going on. So empowering yourself, understanding that fear weakens the immune system. It weakens the immune system. If you're in constant state of fight or flight, guess what? That creates inflammation inside your body. This will show up as other diseases as well too. So besides the potential to get a virus or a cold or whatever, now we start looking at other conditions like digestive disorders, Crohn's disease, colitis, IBS. We start looking at menstrual dysfunctions. There's so many things. Eye floaters, trigeminal facial neuralgia, one of the most painful nerve conditions known in Western medicine, also referred to as a suicide disease. We start to see these conditions come up, and it's not by accident. So it becomes a conscious choice every single day. Yes, do what you need to do that's in alignment with your truth. You do that, but you don't have to project that onto another being. All of us are like snowflakes. We're all individual. And so how our bodies function and the potential diseases and what benefits us, what doesn't benefit us, you cannot put us all into one little eggshell and say, okay, one size fits all. It's not that way. We're all on this individual journey, but collectively, as a consciousness community, we need to come together and increase our vibration. How do we do that? We go inward, right? Because when I'm mindful of my thoughts, then guess what? That radiates outward. If I'm being stuck in fear, guess what? I'm vibrating at that frequency, and that's going outward. And we live on this matrix of energy. And it doesn't matter if you're here in California or in St. Charles, Missouri, that vibration is there. And it's going to connect with other people's vibration at that same level, right? So changing your vibration, and Qigong is one method in order for you to increase your vibration, increase your consciousness, and get you out of that place of fear.
Oh, wonderful. Oh my gosh. You're talking my language right here. So basically, don't make yourself vulnerable if you don't have to make yourself vulnerable by understanding how these behaviors ultimately affect us. It's like running towards the very thing that you're afraid of. And that's really what happens to most people. We set ourselves up for that, but we've just got to understand this technology of spirit, mind, body. It's profound. It's amazing. And yes, and the loneliness that people experience. And what else? Yeah, loneliness is one of the things. And the loneliness and the sadness, those things that are not being talked about that you mentioned, and being able to cope with that loneliness. Go take a Qigong class, sign up, get online here.
Right. Yeah. Be part of a community. And, what happened, how the Chi Club started was that, we had all these live classes, and we had a huge government contract up there in Santa Clara County where we were in charge of the 23,000 employees for employee wellness. So, I talk to trauma doctors and nurses on disease prevention, go to the mayor's office and stuff. Anyways, when the pandemic hit, what happened was that we started off with the 7-day Chi challenge, thanks to my friend and Hollywood physique expert, Eric the trainer. And we did it for free because we know that people were losing their jobs, right? So we couldn't integrally charge for a class when we knew that people were losing their jobs, right? And their careers. So we did it for free for quite a while, for like the first few months of the pandemic. And then once we saw that things were changing and getting in the summer months and stuff like that, then, we started charging $2 a class. But anyways, what we were so shocked about, we weren't even expecting this, because, when you do this kind of work, you do it because the love of the work and the love of the people, right? If you're doing it just because of some kind of selfish intent, then, that's going to come back. I believe that comes back to you, bite you in the butt somewhere down the road. But anyways, at the end of when we let go of the 7-day of the Chi Challenge, we started getting donation checks from people from around the world thanking us, because it was the one thing that people had when they were in lockdown that they could look forward to, because we make the class fun too. We're lighthearted. My wife and I are lighthearted people. We like to laugh. And so even though this is a serious practice, it's still a fun practice as well too. But anyways, the impact that it's had on the public, and especially people that are not going out, right? At least they know that 4 days a week, they have access to these classes, and
They look forward to it.
They look forward to it. And people are, and then, even if you don't have time to watch it, let's say you can't get up or you live on the East Coast or something like that, and something comes up, you have the recordings for up to a week, so it's something that, really, once again, that you can empower yourself. And again, like-minded people. And we're talking all ages, all races. Like, man, it's like a community, and it's so
Yeah.
much fun. And from all around the world, oh, man, I mean,
That is awesome. Yeah. I mean, yeah, be part of it. Be part of it, as
Mhm.
opposed to sitting and thinking about, how lonely you are. I get it. But there's things to be done. There's things you can do. And so, again, right before we leave, we have just a minute or so left. I just want to remind you once again that these are the kinds of shows that I love bringing you, and I want to bring you more shows like this. But supporting the show and the station is really helpful. So, hopefully you have called in, and if you haven't, called in to make a donation, there's still time. You can call in and make a donation to 818-985-5735, 818-985-5735. If I can get 50 people to make a $50 donation, that would be fantastic. If you can make less, if you want to join the Sustainer Circle, that's great. If you want to do more, if you want to do $5,000 or $10,000, that's perfect as well. So, and I hope you are the one that received the book. Exciting. The link will be available on the website under Chris's profile. So you'll be able to go there and to download it, and do subscribe to the website. There's no charge. If you go there and decide to get the link, then just subscribe. So you're on our newsletter for all that I would like to share with you. So Chris Sheldon, once again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. And, I love talking with you, and, like surrounding yourself with like-minded people is amazing. So I really appreciate your show and the energy that you're putting out there. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. And again, his website is sheltonqigong.com, and that link will also be on the website. All right. Well, thank you to our listening audience. Thank you to our engineer, D'Angelo Jones. Please visit theexpansionzone.com for the archive for this show and for all the other shows that we've done. Visit YouTube. We also have the shows on the YouTube channel. And just a whole lot more. Instagram, I'm trying to build my Instagram page. So do go to Instagram and connect with me there as well, and Facebook and so on. To find out more about me, do visit therealsoniabarrett.com. A lot goes on there in terms of some of the free workshops, teleconferences that I do. And as always, I like to remind you to live life to its fullest and question everything. Until next time, see you then.
Everybody's talking about consciousness. Everybody wants that eternal kiss. Everyone's saying there's more than this. Everyone wants to